Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be reviewing the first book in the Saga of the Seven Sons, Hidden Empire, by Kevin J. Anderson. The Saga of the Seven Sons is a 7-book epic sci-fi series featuring politics and war and intrigue and romance and all the stuff you could ask from an epic sci-fi adventure. If you've read the Dune books and enjoyed those, you will probably enjoy this. This is much more of a Kevin J. Anderson type of story, so it's much more of a multi-character arc and series, so it's a huge cast of characters, and it's a really big setup. So the first book is mostly just setup for where the rest of the series is going to be going, and it's quite fun setup. So to begin with, I'll talk about one of the pros of this book, which makes it most excellent, is the world building. Kevin J. Anderson is one of the top world building writers in the business. The way that he's able to create all these planets and the cultures on the planets and the history of the culture. It's not just that a culture loves trees in his world. It's that they love trees, and here's why, and here's how long they've loved the trees, and here's how special the trees are to them because of these reasons, and these are the ancestors who founded all that stuff, and it makes it so lived in and so real, so vibrant. At the same time, you have world building of the science variety, where there's lots of scientific jargon in these books, and it feels like, while a lot of the book is implausible, he put thought into it. If he made something up, there's a reason why it's made up. And if he had to use something that exists, there's a reason that it exists. And so one of the great things about this book's world building is that it is very complex. You're not just getting the same type of monocultures around. Even though the cultures are very based in something, there are little differences and tweaks among the culture, which makes it even unique among the subparts of the culture. The second great part of this book is the plot. This is building up a huge plot for the rest of the series, and is very compelling. You have the humanity called the Terran Empire has built this device called the Clickus Torch, which is designed to turn a dead planet into a sun so that it can be used to harvest energy and life for a new system. And it is super exciting because it's going to build more power for the Terran Empire. Except they accidentally awaken the 300-pound gorilla in the universe, an ancient alien race, which basically declares war on humanity and anyone who stands in their way. And thus it creates this big sense of worry in the universe, and it affects all the characters. Every character is affected by the events of the Clickus Torch. And so you also have the Ildrian Empire, which they have their own things going on, and they get dragged in, and there's all this epic storytelling going on that is really well done. I will get to the weak part of this book now, and the weakness of this book is its characters. This book has at least 30 point-of-view characters. I stopped counting at about 30. There are so many point-of-view characters in this book, and some of them are really interesting. They really pulled me in. And some of them, sadly, are just dull and boring, and I didn't care. And that's part of the problem, is that he bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Kevin Anderson loves his multitude of characters and big casts, and he loves jumping around with them, but he just did a little too much. He had a big cast in the other series I read of his fantasy series, the Wake of the Dragon series, but at least in that series it wasn't this big, and that is a trilogy, whereas this is 7 books, so by the end of the series I might enjoy more of the characters. But unfortunately, he starts out with all these characters, and it's really hard to follow. What he should have done is followed the Wheel of Time approach, where you start with a handful of characters and you build it outwards. Instead, he tried to do what might be considered the High Republic approach, which is to just have too many characters all at once happening. And unfortunately, it's too complex to start out with, and most readers will get frustrated. And I got frustrated, and I almost put the book down, but I said, no, I'm going to finish this book because I know I like Kevin J. Anderson as a writer. And I did really enjoy the book. It's just at the beginning, he throws so much at you. If you like connections to other sci-fi books and series, you're going to love this book. part of the greatness of this book is the way it plays off of tropes and ideas used in other series. There are many connections to Dune and to Star Wars and to Star Trek and to 2001: A Space Odyssey. You'll notice all of these if you're paying attention, and it's got this great science fiction operatic moment that this music could definitely use this book could use some John Williams music in the background. At the same time, there was a few scenes where there was one scene in particular where I was like, I know exactly where he got that idea from. That he got this from Dune. He did it from this part in the book when this happens and this happens. Like, there are some total moments where I'm like, I know where he got that. But it was really exciting getting to put all those things together. I like it when authors steal from other authors. I think it's really fun, especially since Kevin J. Anderson has worked in the Dune universe. So another part of this series that I liked was there were a handful of characters that I thought were really strong here. One of the characters was the character of Raymond Aguirre. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I know how to spell it. I know how to read it in the book. This character is basically groomed to become the new king of the Terran Empire, except there's a little bit that's going on in there that he's not a big fan of, and he didn't choose to be groomed for this job, and so it's very interesting that he's going to be the new king. You also have another character that I really enjoyed, which was Nira, who is basically this green priest. She's sent to go and study the Saga of the Seven Sons in the Ildrian Empire, and she ends up falling in love with a certain Ildrian, and her whole story I thought was very fascinating. And then another character that I really thought was excellent was a character such as King Frederick. I liked all things King Frederick, and Basil Wenceslas, who is basically the de facto leader of the Terran Empire. I thought Basil Wenceslas was interesting. And then I was also interested by Jess Tamblyn, who is basically one of the Romer leaders. And so there were a handful of characters that I was so hooked into and interested in. But the rest of the cast I just thought was meh. I thought the plot regarding the rest of the cast was interesting, but the characters themselves were weak. And if Kevin has any room for improvement, it's in his characters there. So I have a side note personally that I do not like this cover art. I think that this is very weak cover art. There's a reason that they chose Jupiter as the planet to show in this version, and I get why they went in this version. This is a very minimalistic, this is a very more realistic version of cover art to make it seem more of like a serious sci-fi epic, something maybe Andy Weir would write that's more technologically based. But that's not what this is. There's magic systems in this book. This is a science fantasy. It really isn't pure science fiction in the traditional sense. And so there's the old cover art, which I will show right here. The old cover art, I think, for this first book is so much better. It makes it feel, and for the whole series, makes it feel so much more campy and so much more epic in scope, whereas this just feels like spacey. Like this isn't a space epic necessarily, which it is in space and it is an epic. It is a science fiction / fantasy, huge cast of characters, huge magic systems, all that stuff. So I do not like the cover art, but don't let that deter you because the book itself is quite good. There are just some minor problems with it. So overall, I really enjoy this book. I don't think it's the best book that I've ever read or the best sci-fi book I've ever read, but it's highly entertaining. I think the series has great potential. I will definitely be keeping going with the series. And so if you've read this book, let me know down in the comments what you thought of it. If you've read other Kevin J. Anderson books, let me know what other of his books do you like. And if you intend to read this book, let me know and I can give you some pointers on how to read it and we can have discussions in the comments. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel. It would be wonderful if I could have some more of your support. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.